The sunlight streamed through the large, ornate windows of our family dining room, casting intricate patterns on the polished oak table. The smell of roasted chicken wafted through the air, mingling with the sharp scent of the lemon vinaigrette my mother had tossed over the vibrant, colorful salad. My stomach growled, but I felt something else bubbling beneath the surface, something messy and chaotic like a storm brewing in the distance. Today was not just another Sunday family dinner, it had that unmistakable tension that filled the air with anticipation. "Dinner's ready," my mother called out, her voice laced with the same excitement she had every week. My heart twisted a little. I loved our family dinners, the laughter, the stories shared around the table, but recently it felt different. I felt it in my bones, the whispers of discontent, the silent judgments that hung like a thick fog. I took a deep breath as I walked towards the dining room, fighting the uneasy flutter in my stomach. As I entered, I caught sight of my father, his usual warm smile replaced with a frown as he scrutinized the headlines from the newspaper sprawled in front of him. Across from him, my brother sat idly, his fingers scrolling through his phone, absorbed in whatever trivial post caught his attention. My sister had already claimed the seat beside him, and a spark of fury lit up inside me. She had been the golden child for far too long, and I was tired of the favoritism, tired of the ways my parents never seemed to realize how unfair it was. "Nice of you to join us, Samantha," my brother said without looking up, his tone dripping with sarcasm. My stomach dropped. Why did he always have to poke at me like I was some kind of target? "Oh, I was just busy, living my life," I shot back, trying to keep my voice steady, but I could feel the simmering anger bubbling to the surface. My hands shook slightly as I gripped the back of the chair, grounding myself. My father glanced at me, eyebrows raised. "There's no need for that tone. We're all here to enjoy a nice meal together." The firmness in his voice made it clear he was already siding with my brother. My heart sank. "Right, enjoy a meal while pretending everything is fine," I muttered under my breath, but the words slipped out a little too loudly and my sister shot me a look that could wither flowers. It was a look dripping with condescension, as if to say, "You don't belong here." My grip tightened on the chair. "Let's not turn this into a spectacle," my father said, and I could barely keep my eyes from rolling. "We're family, we need to stick together. Can we enjoy this one dinner without drama?" "We all have a lot to discuss." "Is that what you call it?" I bit back, my voice rising slightly. "A lot to discuss? You mean the way you constantly dismiss me?" My mother shot me a look that said, "Not now," but I could hardly hold back at this point. "Samantha, is there something on your mind?" my mother asked, her voice soft but with an edge that hinted at a warning. "Yeah, just the fact that you seem to think giving everything to my sister is just fine while I'm left to fend for myself." The frustration exploded out of me, my heart racing as I felt every eye on me. "You should have seen the look on her face when she opened up the new designer purse that you both bought her for her birthday while I'm still stuck with my worn-out sneakers." My sister's jaw dropped in disbelief. "I worked hard for that purse. I never would have gotten it if I hadn't excelled in all my classes." "Right, because I don't work hard. I'm in a very demanding field too." My voice cracked just a little, the way my hands shook as I gestured wildly, the memories of my own sacrifices crashing in like waves. "But apparently that means nothing to you." "I never said that," my mother interjected, her voice sharper now. "It was a gift, Samantha. We love you both equally." Her fists clenched around the tablecloth, the tension building like a pressure cooker. "Equally?" I laughed bitterly, the sound echoing painfully in the air. "How do you figure that when you only seem to notice her accomplishments? You cut me off every time I try to speak about my work like it doesn't even matter." "Why is that?" my brother chuckled, the sound patronizing. "Because it's not like you're doing anything worth celebrating. Remember that time you got passed over for that promotion? And here we are thinking everything you're doing is just great, while in reality you were just too mediocre." "Enough." My father bellowed, slamming his palm onto the table. The forks and knives rattled and the salad dressing splattered slightly, creating a mess that mirrored the chaos within me. "This is not how we behave at the dinner table. You need to show respect to your brother, your sister, and your mother." "Respect? And what about respect for me?" My voice trembled with pent-up frustration, but I barely recognized myself in the rage spilling out. "My feelings don't matter at all, do they? I was cut off the moment you chose favorites." "It is not favoring," my mother shouted, her voice cracking with emotion. "You are both my children. I love you both the same, but you need to understand that life isn't fair." "Right," I spat, the heat flaring in my chest. "You expect me to believe that? Do you even hear yourself, mother? Because it sure does not sound that way," I challenged, clutching the edge of the table as a wave of emotion threatened to engulf me. "Honestly, you need to grow up, Samantha," my brother added with a roll of his eyes. "It is embarrassing to see you act this way. Maybe if you put some effort into your life, you wouldn't feel so bitter all the time." Bitterness coiled inside me, hot and toxic. I felt myself go pale, my vision narrowing as I stared at him. "You think life is about possessions and appearances, don't you?" I accused, pointing a finger, shaking slightly. "That's all you care about. No wonder we're always fighting. You don't see the real world at all." He opened his mouth, clearly ready to retaliate, but instead my mother breathed in deeply and turned to me. "Samantha, please, we can talk about this later." "No," I interrupted, my heart pounding in my chest. I was done with later. I want to talk about it now in front of everyone. I could feel my palms sweating, the raw desperation rushing through me. If I didn't voice my feelings now, would I ever? I know about the inheritance, I blurted out, freezing the entire room. The air thickened as my mother's expression shifted to one of fear, my brother's brows knitted, and my sister's face drained of color. What do you mean? My sister whispered, her voice trembling. I held her gaze, the determination rising like a phoenix. You all thought I did not know, didn't you? You excluded me from every conversation about what happens with our grandfather's estate. You planned everything around me like I would not be affected. You were too busy coddling her, I found out, and it sickens me. Silence enveloped the room, a stunned kind of silence that hung like a question mark in the air. My chest tightened and I could feel my heart racing. I had dropped the bomb and I felt the weight of it hanging over us, pulling us down into a pit of uncertainty. My brother finally broke the silence. That is not what. I interrupted again, adrenaline coursing through my veins, drowning out the fear of pushing them further away. Not true. There is a reason I have no idea what is happening with the family assets. I overheard you two talking last week. You plan to hand everything over to her without even considering me. My father's face contorted with anger. You have no idea what you are saying, Samantha. You think you can just accuse us of favoritism without having the complete picture? No, I whispered fiercely, the tears threatening to spill. I know exactly what's going on. Suddenly, I felt as if the entire room was spiraling beneath my feet. My brother and sister exchanged uncomfortable glances, and there was something in their eyes, fear, guilt, or perhaps recognition of the truth. I felt my heartbeat in my ears, reminding me that this was only the beginning. I am sick of being ignored, I continued, my voice quieter now but with fierce intensity. I will not let you make decisions without considering me. I deserve a seat at the table, too. The tension in the room was electric, pulsating around us like a living thing. I could feel the change in the air, the way family bonds were fraying even as they tried to hold it all together. If they thought they could just pretend I did not exist, they were wrong. I would make them see me. And as I took a deep breath, I realized that this battle was only just beginning. Right then, as if scripted, my mother opened her mouth to respond, but my father slammed his hand down on the table again, the tension snapping like a taut wire. I shot a glance at him, and he looked like he could explode at any moment. I think, he said slowly, deliberately, his voice low, that we need to end this immediately. I refuse to sit here and have this conversation degrade into accusations. It is a family matter. My grandfather's legacy will not be used as a weapon against anyone, and just like that, the weight of uncertainty settled, and I was left on the precipice of something delicate and dangerous. I felt unseen, simmering with rage, but beneath that, a new determination began to bloom. I would not be silenced anymore. Standing up, I slammed my napkin onto the table, the sound shocking everyone into silence once again. If it is really about family, then you all better be ready for an unexpected confrontation, because I am taking my place in all of this. And with that, I turned and walked away, feeling the stunned expressions on their faces burning into my back, leaving me with the undeniable feeling that I had crossed an invisible line, and there was no going back now. I could feel the warmth from the afternoon sun glowing on my skin as I stepped onto the porch, but all I could think about was the storm brewing inside me. The air felt thick and electric, and the distant sounds of birds chirping and the low hum of traffic felt like a cruel joke as I grappled with the twist my life had taken in just one day. It was supposed to be a joyful family gathering, a chance to celebrate another year together, but it turned into something else entirely. As I walked towards the front door, my heart raced, pounding against my ribcage. The smell of freshly baked cookies wafted through the air, reminding me of my grandmother's famous chocolate chip recipe, and a pang of nostalgia hit me hard. I froze for a moment, memories flooding my mind, laughing around the dining table, her worn hands mixing dough, the smiles plastered across our faces, fragile now like the fading memories they were tied to. With every step I took, I felt the weight of betrayal heavy on my shoulders. My brother had chosen them over me, and the words hung in the air like a thick fog, suffocating me. How could he? I whispered to myself, hardly believing it was real. Upon entering the house, I was greeted by the cheerful chatter of my family, blissfully unaware of the turmoil raging beneath the surface. My father stood by the kitchen island, animatedly explaining something to my sister, while the laughter of my mother echoed throughout the living room. I wanted to scream, to shake them out of their comfort, but instead I clutched the railing tightly, my fingers digging into the wood as if it could ground me. "Hey, you made it," my sister exclaimed, her bright smile only deepening the ache in my heart. She rushed over to pull me into a hug. I could feel her warm body against mine, but all I could think about was how every ounce of happiness seemed to slip away whenever I stepped further into the room. She stepped back, a glimmer of concern clouding her eyes. "You okay? You look a little pale." "Yeah, just tired from the drive," I mumbled, forcing a smile that felt more like a mask than a real response. "You sure?" my sister prodded, tilting her head slightly. "We were just talking about the inheritance situation and I cut her off mid-sentence, a jolt of anger igniting in my chest. "The inheritance? Seriously, you guys think you can just discuss it like it's nothing?" My voice cracked, the tension escaping like air from a balloon. The laughter in the room faded, replaced by an uncomfortable silence. All eyes were on me, and I could feel the heat rising to my cheeks. My father locked eyes with me, his expression shifting from surprise to irritation. "Samantha, we are all adults here. We need to discuss what is best for the family moving forward." I nearly choked on the words that bubbled up within me. "Best for the family," I spit out. "What about what is fair? You cut me off without even batting an eye when grandfather passed. I was the one who took care of him." My hands shook and I wanted to hug myself to find comfort that seemed miles away. "Stop it, just stop. You act like you were some saint when we all know." My brother's voice boomed from the other side of the room. His tone was dismissive, it blanketed me with resentment. "We all know who he favored, it was never a secret." "What?" I felt my heart racing. My mind struggled to catch up while I desperately searched for something to say that would break this spiraling chaos. "Just because he was living in your fancy house doesn't mean he loved you more." "Watch your tone," my father barked, his face reddening. "I don't want to hear any of this again. We are moving on and you should get with the program." He waved his hand dismissively as if I were just a troublesome fly he wanted shooed away. I could feel his authority press down on me, suffocating any fight left inside me. I wanted to confront him further, to stand my ground, but I felt small and weak in the face of his anger. "I cannot believe how unfair this is," my voice trembled. I looked at my sister, desperately searching for any hint of support, but she retreated, her gaze slipping from mine. "You all talk about family as if it still means something, yet you act as though I am not even a part of this. You keep things from me." I struggled to contain the tears welling up in my eyes. "I told you already, we were all busy working things out, it was not a secret." My brother rolled his eyes and I could barely contain my fury. "You demanded I step back, you cut me out of the family discussions, you didn't even give a chance to discuss what grandfather wanted." I shouted, my voice echoing against the walls, desperate and raw. "Listen, Samantha," my father interrupted, an edge of impatience creeping into his tone. "He is gone and this is what it is. You can either accept it or take it up with a lawyer." It felt like the ground shifted beneath my feet. I walked back a step, almost dizzy. "A lawyer," I repeated, disbelief flooding my senses. Did they really think I lacked the courage to fight back? But this was not just about money or property, it was about family. "That is your choice," my father replied, dismissively turning back to the kitchen counter where my mother was quietly watching. I caught the briefest flicker of resentment across my mother's face, but it disappeared before I could analyze it. "Fine," I whispered, and sarcasm dripped from my voice. "I'll just be the family outcast then. That sounds great." My hands shook as I desperately tried to swallow the words that had clawed their way to the surface. My brother smirked, and it cut me deeper than any harsh words. "You were already on the outskirts, you just didn't want to see it." Tears welled up in my eyes, and I quickly turned away, seeking refuge in the tension in the air. Frustration gripped me, and I could feel my chest tightening, oxygen becoming scarce. I could not stay in this place, this ocean of condescension and betrayal. I felt cornered, and I wanted nothing more than to break free from their judgment and whispers. "Whatever," I muttered, bitterness flooding my throat. "I will find my way without your approval." My mother lowered her gaze, guilt etched across her features. "Samantha," she began, but I couldn't hear her. The sound of her voice was drowned out by the pounding in my ears. "Shut up, just shut up," I shouted, my voice ringing through the room. The shock on their faces consumed me, but it was too late now. I felt walls crumbling around me, and I was wrestling with the sudden surge of empowerment rising in my chest, thrumming like a drumbeat. "I will not play your games anymore. You mock me like I am the villain in this story, but I swear to you I will not let you, not anymore." I took a step back, feeling the reality of the air pressing hard against my skin. Ignoring the stunned looks from all around me, my feet instinctively carried me toward the door. I brushed past my sister, who stammered in disbelief, and my brother, who sneered with satisfaction. Their words barely registered as I concussed my way through the hallway toward freedom, every step feeling like a renewed resolve. Peering through the glass panes of the door, I hesitated. The sunlight beckoned, shimmering like hope beyond the shadow of heartache. I rattled the handle, the sound of my own breath heavy in my ears, and then I froze again. What was I leaving behind? I paused for a moment, catching the collective silence of my family, feeling their lingering gaze weighing upon me. This was no longer just about my grandfather's will or the division of assets. It transcended all of it, a battle for love, recognition, and a sense of place in this family that had become alien to me. My heart felt raw, exposed, and I resolved that I would no longer be a doormat for them to walk all over. "I will fight back," I whispered, the conviction of my words sending a shiver down my spine. And as I finally wrenched the door open, stepping outside into the bright light that waited for me, I knew this was just the beginning. The wind whipped through my hair, a tangible reminder of the change that was about to unfold. The stakes had risen, and though I was trembling with uncertainty, a flicker of determination ignited within me. I would no longer be silenced. And just like that, as I took a step into the sunlit world before me, I felt the first whisper of power returning. The door slammed shut behind me, resonating with finality, and I turned to face the unknown, ready for the next chapter in this family saga. The air was thick with tension as I stepped into the living room, a space that had once been the hub of warmth and laughter, now turned into a battlefield. My sister was sprawled on the couch, earbuds in, completely immersed in whatever world she was drowning in today. The golden rays of the setting sun highlighted the dust particles swirling in the air, making the atmosphere feel almost dreamlike, but I knew that this was no fairy tale. The family drama that was slowly unfolding felt like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. My chest tightened at the thought of the words exchanged just a few days ago, how every syllable felt like a dart shot straight into my heart. I could feel the anger bubbling within me, threatening to spill over, but I had to be careful. My brother was home too, lurking somewhere I could feel, hiding behind the front door, his presence like a dark shadow hanging overhead. "Are you just going to sit there?" I finally called out, my voice barely above a whisper. It was a challenge, and I needed some form of acknowledgement. My sister pulled one earbud out, her brow furrowing. "What do you want? Can't you see I'm busy?" She didn't even look at me, her eyes glued to her phone, scrolling through whatever made her oblivious to our reality. It stung, and I could feel the betrayal creeping in again. She had chosen to be oblivious, to hide away rather than confront anything. Why couldn't she understand that this was bigger than us, than our petty squabbles? Busy. Busy doing nothing, my voice cracked, just enough to break through that icy barrier between us. I hated how desperate I sounded, how vulnerable I felt. "You know Mom and Dad are in a serious situation, right?" With a sigh, she rolled her eyes at me as if I had just told her that the sky was blue. "Whatever, Samantha, they love to exaggerate." There it was, that familiar dismissal I had grown used to. "They just lost a decade of savings. The business is gone. Their future is in jeopardy." The words felt like knives as I spat them out. "How can you sit there so carefree?" A look of irritation crossed her face, and for a flicker of a moment I saw a glimmer of something deeper, perhaps guilt, but it vanished just as quickly. "Maybe if you weren't so dramatic, I could concentrate." She shoved the earbud back in and faced away from me. I clenched my fists, a spark of indignation rushing through my body. First they lost everything, now this. "You might reconsider if you were actually invested in your family. If you cared, maybe you wouldn't act like it was all beneath you." The words came out harsher than I intended, and they hung in the air like a provocation. She sat up slowly, her expression stiffening. "You do realize this could ruin everything for Mom and Dad, right?" she said, finally looking at me, eyes narrowing. "So maybe stop blaming me for their failures." Those words hit me hard. I froze for a moment, the heat from my anger jolting me backward. Was she seriously trying to put this on me? "You think it's my fault?" I stepped closer, my heart racing. "I'm not the one undermining Mom and Dad and pretending everything is all right." Before she could retort, the door swung open, and unexpectedly my brother entered, his brow furrowed. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice thick with apprehension. This was it, the moment where everything unraveled. The last few days had brought the three of us on a crash course for confrontation, and now it was circling above us like a hawk ready to pounce. "Just a little sisterly disagreement," I said, glancing over at my sister, who was now visibly annoyed. "Disagreement?" my brother scoffed, walking further into the room. A slight smirk crossed his lips. "Looks like a full-blown argument to me." My body tensed at his words. "I don't need you to take sides," I shot back, feeling more on edge as his presence intensified. "We're just discussing Mom and Dad." My sister crossed her arms defensively, as if trying to ward off any potential assault. "Samantha thinks everything is a big deal," she said dismissively, turning her attention to her phone as though it held the answers to our family crisis. "I am not the problem here," I said, my voice rising, barely able to hold myself together. "You both refuse to see what this is doing to our family." I felt the tears building behind my eyes, a strong urge to shake them awake from their ignorant slumber. "You think they're okay, that acting as if nothing's wrong will fix this. They need us." The tension thickened as my brother's expression hardened. "What do you even want us to do?" he questioned, throwing his hands in the air. "We can't fix everything. They're the ones who messed it up." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Are you seriously placing this blame on them?" I felt my heart racing, aching for some understanding. "It's not just about them, it's about our family." "Maybe we should have seen this coming," my sister cut in, her voice chillier than before. "If Dad wasn't so determined to be so secretive about the business." "Secretive?" I barked, incredulous. "He put everything on the line for us. He trusted you both. He made sacrifices. Don't you get it?" "Maybe he's not the golden parent you think he is," my brother said, a mocking undertone emerging in his voice, as if I were naive to believe in the perfect image of our father. "You're so quick to defend, but what about the inheritance? Who do you think is going to get left behind?" I could feel the wound of that remark deepening. "This isn't about money," I roared, nearly shaking in frustration. "It's about supporting our parents in their time of need." My sister rolled her eyes again. "Support? Or are you just trying to play the hero?" Each word they threw at me felt like an attack, each dismissal pushing me closer to something resembling clarity. I had always been the one to absorb their jabs, the one who tried to build bridges while they acted like we were still children playing house. But now, sitting in this tension-filled room, I felt a surge of determination rise within me, an undercurrent of defiance. "Fine, if you too want to mock me, then do it. But I refuse to stand here while you ignore the reality of what's happening. I will be there for Mom and Dad, even if it means you two turn your backs on me." The room fell silent, the only sounds being our breaths intermingling with the tension thickening the air. "Good luck with that," my brother huffed, the sarcasm dripping with every word. I knew he didn't believe I would follow through. Maybe I had been too soft for too long, unwilling to stand up and fight for what was right. With that, he turned away, but I wasn't done. I needed to say everything that had been trapped inside me for so long, like a dam about to burst. You may mock me all you want, but when the dust settles, you'll see that I'm not the one making a fool of myself here. You both need to understand the truth that when the chips are down, it's family that should matter most. I felt my heart racing, the adrenaline coursing through me as I searched my siblings' eyes for some sign of remorse, acknowledgement, anything. Instead, I was met with a cold stare, an icy wall that I felt unable to breach. Suddenly, my sister stood up, those familiar dismissive motions coming back. "Whatever, Samantha, just don't come crying to me when it all hits the fan," she said, storming out of the room, her careless words leaving a burning trail of hurt behind her. I stood there, breathless, facing my brother who remained silent, watching me as though I were a curious creature he wasn't quite sure what to make of. The walls felt like they were closing in, and I felt so alone in that moment. "You're both blind," I whispered harshly, my voice trembling with emotion. "Maybe you're the one who's blind," my brother finally replied, his words puncturing the fog of silence. "I used to think you were the smart one, making the right calls, but maybe you've been naive all along." And with that, he turned and left, the echo of the door slamming reverberating through my ears. My heart dropped, and in that moment of solitude, I realized something had broken beyond repair. This wasn't just about our parents or money, this was about who we had become. I sank down onto the couch, tears spilling over as they mingled with the hurt and anger I felt. The sun dipped lower, shadows stretching across the room, and I could feel the weight of the world on my shoulders. I had never felt more determined or more alone. The bitter aftermath of our confrontation lingered like smoke, left hanging in the air, a constant reminder of the chasm growing between us. A chasm I was now faced with crossing alone, but deep down I knew something had shifted. I was done playing the role of the lost sister, the one no one listened to. Within me, something was awakening, a fierce need to fight for my family, protect them from the things we buried under the surfaces of smiles and secrets. With my heart still racing, a resolve burned within. If I was going to be painted as the villain in my own story, then I would become the type of villain who could confront the truth, come what may. As the shadows deepened around me in that dimly lit room, I felt a growing determination stirring in my gut like a fire igniting within. Things were about to change, and in the face of danger, betrayal, and darkness, I was ready to step into the light. Little did my siblings know that as I sat there contemplating the nights ahead, I was silently plotting a course of my own, chasing answers that might awaken a storm of revenge they could never foresee. The dim light of the living room felt heavy as I walked in, and I could almost hear the tension crackling in the air like static electricity. My mother was sitting on the couch, her posture rigid, fingers twisting together. A half-finished dinner was laid out on the table, cold and forgotten. In that house, the smell of burnt chicken lingered like a cruel twist of fate, reminding me just how much went wrong in our family lately. My sister had always been the one who could do no wrong in my mother's eyes, and even now the emptiness of the place felt like a reminder that my sister was favored again. "Where have you been?" my mother snapped, her blue eyes narrowing at me. "I thought we agreed you would help with dinner tonight." It was a simple question, but the look on her face twisted something deep inside me, a pressure building that I struggled to contain. "I went to see grandfather," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. The warmth of his home, filled with the sweet aroma of fresh cookies and ginger tea, felt like a comforting contrast to this cold space. "Oh, of course," my mother said, sarcasm dripping from her words. "Of all the people in the family, you chose to visit that old man. You know he left you nothing in the will, right? Just more pity." Each word was like a punch to my gut, my chest tightened, and I fought the urge to say something sharp in return. After all, it should not have been a surprise to me. After all, favoritism was always obvious with my sister. "You don't understand," I said, my heart racing. "He's still family." "Family? You mean the one who snubbed you while giving everything to your sister?" My mother leaned forward, her voice lowering as though she was sharing a well-kept secret. "You should have been there to take your place as his favorite instead of hiding away with just a ghost of what you lost." She felt cold and unfeeling, and I resented her words, feeling betrayed and mocked. Did she not see how fine my sister's life had become? The endless luxury, the brand new car my parents gifted her last month, and the vacation to Paris they never even asked me about. I took my place as the invisible daughter, shoved aside in the name of whatever image my family wanted to maintain. "Maybe if you had spent more time with him instead of acting like a martyr, he would have not cut you off," she continued, her voice growing louder. "But no, you're too busy getting all self-righteous over your own misplaced ideals." I clenched my fists, staring at the wall to the left, trying to block out the pain my mother's words caused. I was almost vibrating with the heat of anger, remembering those conversations I had with my sister where she perpetually mocked me for being less. "Honestly, you think you can just show up and act as if nothing matters," she sneered, shaking her head. "You are about to see just how much this family thinks of you. Just wait until the next will reading, you might as well have been anyone." I took a shaky breath. Every word felt like it was dripping with disdain, but it gave me courage to say, "At least I'm not selfish and entitled. I do not need to manipulate people to have what I want." Her gaze turned icy. "And yet you are here, fighting for scraps. You think you can take a jab at your sister and still act innocent. You chose your stance long ago." My breath caught in my throat. The weight of our family's expectations was crushing, and the sharp reminder of what my sister had done, how she had turned against me, filled me with a fury that I did not know I possessed. You know, I was the one who cared for grandfather in the last months after all that was done. I faced it all alone while everyone else turned their back. My heart raced as I could feel the strength coursing through me, but also the fear of being cut off completely. Would I really risk my mother turning against me, or was that already happening? Care, she laughed bitterly. You think you are the only one who cares. You spend all your time pretending to be the good daughter while your sister is the one actually helping in this family. I froze, my pulse pounding in my ears. The very idea that my sister's weak attempts at helping could outweigh mine twisted a knife deep within my heart. Helping, or are you just going to keep pretending? I almost didn't recognize my own voice, full of venom. Watch your tone, she shot back, her voice hardening. You are going to drive this family into the ground with your bitterness. You should take a lesson from your sister. My chest tightened as I took a step back, all the air seeming to leave the room. You think your constant dismissal is going to make me change, that I will just lay down and take this? Tension filled the room, the only sound was the soft ticking of the clock. Each second felt like an eternity as my mother's gaze softened for just a moment, reminding me that beneath her harsh words lay a woman defeated by the same oppressive structures she enforced. You can either choose to be part of this family or watch from the sidelines, she muttered softly, her voice cracking. It is up to you. My mom's brief flicker of vulnerability pierced right through me, leaving me grappling with the complicated thoughts swirling in my head. Did she truly see me, or was it just another attempt to manipulate me into compliance? My heart battled against itself, but I felt an unfamiliar resolve starting to bloom deep within. I choose to fight, I said, each word heavy with meaning, a statement of intent. I will not be the forgotten daughter anymore. I will not accept this role that has been unfairly thrust upon me like a worn-out shirt. As those words left my lips, the room held its breath. My mother blinked, visibly startled by my sudden change of attitude, and I could see the wheels turning in her head. The silence stretched until she broke it, her tone hardening once more. You know what that will cost you, don't you? I already know the cost. It is being treated like I am less than, like I do not matter, and that ends now. My voice was steady now, hardly recognizing the strength of my own resolve. You think that just by saying that you will change this family's dynamics, she scoffed. You really believe that for every high and mighty thing you proclaim, you will encounter 10 times the disdain? I felt my heart racing, adrenaline pulsing through my veins, but I refused to back down. Let them, I stated, forcing myself to meet her gaze. I refuse to be the outcast because I am not playing their games anymore. I have fought too long to give that up. Just then the door swung open and my brother walked in. What is going on? He asked, his brow furrowing as he sensed the tension hanging thick like fog. I turned my gaze toward him as confusion crossed his features. This confrontation was not how I wanted him to see me, but it was now too late to hide. I could feel Sarah lurking in the background, my sister, undoubtedly informed of everything I said. Nothing you need to worry about, my mother replied harshly, her eyes darting to me, indignation playing across her furrowed brow. Sounds like a fight to me, my brother insisted, taking a step closer. What did I miss? Your sister has decided to come out of her shell finally, my mother said, sarcasm lacing her tone. Let me guess, you're planning on whining about everything to the world? He smirked, crossing his arms over his chest. Do not act superior to me, I interjected. It would be nice if you recognized how I feel. All you and your sister do is mock. Sibling love at its finest, he quipped, shaking his head. You do know that complaining will get you nowhere, don't you? Actually, I might disagree. My voice had grown confident, a strange thrill rushing through me at finally standing my ground. I will speak my truth whether you like it or not. Sounds great, he said dryly, rolling his eyes. My heart raced as I felt the battle of wills intensifying, tension thickening like a storm cloud. I deserve better than being sidelined and cut off. Keep dreaming, he said dismissively. The atmosphere shifted as unspoken words hung in the air, filling the room with static. A thought, pulsing like a beacon, lit a fire deep down inside me. This was not going to be the end. In the depths of my determination, a new purpose dawned within me, igniting my resolve to confront the injustices that had plagued our family for so long. With a pounding heart, I looked toward the exhaustingly familiar faces surrounding me. I might not have been chosen, but I will keep fighting for my place. Before anyone could respond, I slammed the door behind me, the force of it sending a deafening clap through the air, leaving stunned silence in its wake. I knew they had not seen the last of me. Their shocked expressions were etched in my mind, a parting image I would not forget. This was my moment, and for the first time I had taken a step toward claiming what was rightfully mine. I was no longer lost. As I stood outside, breathing heavily and letting the cool night air wash over me, I felt a chilling excitement rush through me. I might be facing a storm, but secretly I was looking forward to the chaos awaiting me at the next family gathering, especially with the will to be read. Shadows danced behind me as I turned back one last time, a fierce determination burning bright as I thought about the final step of my journey. I was ready for the fight ahead. The chill of the evening air seeped through the open window as I stood in the dimly lit living room, the remnants of our family dinner still scattered on the dining table. My heart raced uncontrollably as I recalled the tension that had simmered beneath the surface throughout the night, like an uninvited storm brewing in the distance. The napkins, wilted and wrinkled, bore witness to the chaos that had unfolded: the half-eaten roast, the untouched salad. It felt almost surreal, as if I was peering into a nightmare, one that I could not escape no matter how hard I tried. "Why don't you just give it up?" My mother's voice was sharp, a knife cutting through the atmosphere. She stood at the head of the table, her arms crossed, her lips pressed into a thin line. "You are being ridiculous." "Ridiculous?" I struck back, my voice louder than I intended. "How can you say that? You act like this is nothing, like I shouldn't care about what they did." I waved my arms in exasperation, my palms sweating. Her dismissive attitude felt like salt in a fresh wound, and I clenched my fists to rein in my emotions. "That is not what I said. I just want you to move on, Samantha. Let it go." She threw her hands up in the air, her frustration spilling over. I could see the impatience etched into the lines of her forehead, a clear indication that this conversation was going nowhere, that we were once again stuck on a merry-go-round of anger and resentment. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "They cut me out of the will, Mother. Everything that grandfather worked for, everything we all thought would be divided equally among us, it was all tossed aside because they chose them over me." My heart felt heavy in my chest, each word laced with the betrayal that had nearly crushed me. "Your expectations are unrealistic, Samantha. You cannot seriously believe you were ever the favorite," my mother said, her tone patronizing. I felt my face flush with anger, cheeks burning as tears threatened to spill from my eyes. "Favorite, that's rich coming from you. You were always too busy working to notice anything but your own ambitions." I spat the words out, knowing they were harsh but needing her to understand the depth of my pain. It was unfair, so unfair. "You chose them, Mother. You always chose them." The room fell silent, and I could hear my heart pounding in my ears, reverberating against the stark walls that held witness to our family turmoil. My father shifted uncomfortably in his seat, glancing between us as if we were actors in a tragic play. His usual calm demeanor had slipped away, leaving a vacant expression that told me he was powerless to intervene. I could feel the rift building, stretching wider between my mother and me, a chasm filled with years of unspoken resentment and hidden betrayals. "Samantha, you need to get a grip," my father finally said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. "This incessant anger isn't healthy. We've all lost something in this inheritance situation." I jolted at his words. Scenes flashed in my mind: gifts my grandfather promised, vacations I had envisioned, the family legacy I thought would be ours to share rather than something torn apart like an old photograph. "You think this is just about money?" I shot back, frustration bubbling to the surface. "This is about my place in this family, about how they have something that should have been mine." "Stop being so dramatic," my mother interjected sharply, her tone cutting deeper than any blade. "You need to accept that they are always going to be favored. That is how it is. Life is not fair, and whining about it will not change that." I could not believe what I was hearing. The familiar knot of betrayal tightened in my stomach. "So what? I should just roll over and let them have everything, except that I am nothing in your eyes?" Throughout my life, I had walked a careful tightrope, balancing between my family's expectations and my own dreams. Anger bubbled within me, pushing me to confront this betrayal head-on, but fear held me back. Would I be cast away completely, like some forgotten trinket? They exchanged glances, the kind of looks that suggested a family pact I was not included in. I suddenly felt like I was standing outside in the freezing cold, my once warm home now a place filled with icy glares and dismissive words. "Maybe you should just think about moving out for a while," my father suggested hesitantly, as if he had chosen the words carefully, afraid of the temptation to ignite another fire. "Find a new perspective. Maybe living on your own will give you the distance you need." "Move out," I knew my voice hitched at the strangest of words. "So I should just escape, run away like I've got something to be ashamed of?" "Listen to your father," my mother chimed in, her tone sarcastic. "Clearly you need a makeover of your spirit. Go find some hobbies. Your obsession with this inheritance is toxic." "Obsessed?" I'm standing up for myself. I deserve better than to be cast aside like a broken toy. My breath was coming in short gasps, the emotional whirlwind of this night spiraling around me. As I paced around the room, I could feel the anger radiating off of my body, forcing me forward. "I need to reclaim what is mine." "Yours? What exactly is that?" "Control, power." "You have this twisted view of what family means," my mother scoffed, her eyes narrowing as if peering right through my soul. "There is nothing left of your grandfather's legacy for you. You should thank your lucky stars that they even let you stay around the holidays." "I don't want to be grateful for scraps," I whispered, more to myself than to my parents. I felt the weight of the disappointment in the room growing heavier, the air thick with unresolved tension. Thoughts swirled in my mind like a tornado, grappling with the need to stand my ground but also fearing the void that loomed if I pushed even harder. Sliding my gaze to my brother and sister who had remained silent, I felt a flicker of anger ignite again. Their silence spoke volumes. It told me they were complicit in this charade. They had reveled in the attention, the enrollments, the praise while I stood in the background, and now they were feasting on a delicate inheritance I had been promised for years. "You two think this is fair? Are you really okay with this whole broken legacy?" Finally, my sister's lips curled into a smile that felt more like a taunt than anything genuine. Everyone has to learn, Samantha. You cannot always be the princess. You have to accept your place, and it is far from the throne. A wave of emotion washed over me, rage, humiliation, a stoic sadness as I realized the depth of the divides that had been festering for so long. So you are just okay with it, with being second choice. Never having what you deserve, I retorted, my voice trembling but fierce. I'm not mad at them, she replied dismissively. Why would I want to waste my energy fighting the inevitable? That felt like a knife twisting in my back, a betrayal. I could not comprehend how they could sit there, smug expressions plastered on their faces while I fought for what was rightfully mine. You have handed them everything, you let them walk all over you. My father's frustration flared as he slammed his hand onto the table, rattling the plates and silverware, making me jump. Enough, you act like this is personal, but this is just business. This is not how families are supposed to operate. Business, I echoed incredulously, my heart racing. This is our lives, this is about blood and trust. You think this decision was fair, that I deserve to be cut off just because I didn't fit their mold? The tension hung heavy in the air, thick and impenetrable. My mother pursed her lips, trying to maintain her composure. We need to choose our battles wisely, just let it go. You should be grateful to have a roof over your head. Grateful, with nothing to call my own. All I've ever done is try to fit in, but I guess you were fine letting them step all over me. I spat the words, anger rolling like thunder within me, awakening something that lay dormant for years. It's not about you, my brother cut in finally, his voice cool and calculated. This is about the family. You need to stop making everything such a spectacle. That is what they want. What did you just call me? My heart raced, a blend of indignation and disbelief flooding through my veins. It struck me how the family we once knew had splintered into factions, each one vying for favor, wealth, a legacy long clung to. I said, my brother started, but I cut him off, my voice rising higher, drowning out each syllable he attempted to gather. Don't act like you're my ally. Look at you, I gestured at him, my hands shaking with the eruption of emotions I could not contain any longer. You choose comfort over truth. You never wanted to rock the boat, always wanting to play it safe. Stop this, my mother interjected, her voice laced with authority that had clearly not worked for years. You are embarrassing yourself. No one cares about your petty grievances. A flicker of realization coursed through me, igniting a sense of fierce determination I hadn't known I possessed. I would not let them reduce my worth to mere monetary value. You're wrong, mother. I am done letting you all dictate my identity. You can take your money, your stained legacy, and shove it. I will fight for what is rightfully mine. In that moment, silence fell heavy over the room. The weight of my own defiance hung in the air, charged with the sense of something shifting within me. I was no longer the victim, standing on the sidelines. I was ready to take a rightful place in this twisted game of family ties and betrayals. Then my sister's sneering smile vanished, replaced by wide eyes that reflected shock mixed with fear. What do you mean? Just what I said, I replied, barely able to contain my racing heart, a surge of adrenaline coursing through my body. I will no longer be overlooked or silenced. If it means confronting the maddening chaos of this family, then so be it. And just as swiftly as I found my voice, my chest tightened, the words settling where they could not be taken back. My heart beat fiercely within me, resolute. I refuse to be treated like a ghost in my own family. No more masks, no more illusions. If that means I have to go against you, then so be it. The finality of my words hung in the air, stark and unyielding. Before anyone could respond, I turned on my heel and stormed out of the room, the slam of the door echoing behind me like a thunderclap. My heart raced as icy tendrils of determination wove their way through my very being. I knew my path laid ahead, fraught with turmoil, a fierce battle brewing over our family legacy. As I stepped into the night, the cool air biting at my skin, I felt a thrill of empowerment swell within me. I had awakened something deep within, a sense of justice ignited by the chaos of our unraveling family ties. I would reclaim what was once promised. But as I stared ahead into the vastness of uncertainty, the wind howled softly, reminding me that this was merely the beginning. The storm was far from over, but I could finally face it, not just as a daughter, but as someone ready to carve out my own destiny.